All right, here's George. I'm very glad you won that fight, Matt, but I'm not impressed by your performance, and I look forward to fight you in the near future.
Welcome back to Thinking Critical. This is Wes. We got a special discussion here today. Recently, there are some tweets from Big Bang Comics from Dublin, Ireland, not exactly known to be ferociously fighting against the comic book industry. They're kind of part of the they're part of the system. So it was strange seeing this tweet where they were basically saying that there are more variant covers for Heroes Reborn #1 than they actually have orders on pull list, which seems pretty strange. Obviously, they're in Dublin, big city, one of the bigger, more notable comic shops in all of Europe. Certainly, they're seen as a shop that you should kind of pay attention to. And I wanted to talk to my good friend Aaron Sparrow, comic book writer, editor, also does ordering and whatnot for a couple stores in his local area. How you doing, Aaron?
Doing terrific.
Now, I must say, Heroes Reborn does not have an outlandish number of variant covers in comparison to some of the other things we've seen in the past. I think there's 7 variant covers available to all stores, and I think I saw another site where there might have been upwards of 13 total that they were able to get their hands on. So it's not like there's 50 variant covers like with Tony Stark Iron Man #1.
I think that the number is relatively low, but I think that all of the event fatigue that we've been hearing about for years has really finally come home to roost. For me, it was the end of Absolute Carnage. I just decided that I was like, I'm not doing this anymore. Like, I'm looking at the numbers and these events are not paying off. These variant covers, people aren't interested. People are actually getting upset at the amount of variant covers and the amount of, things that they're being expected to buy that is, got the same exact interior. People are sick of it and retailers are sick of it. And I think that Empire was, each event has done progressively worse. I know that they thought that the numbers for Empire were better than they expected, but they didn't have any expectations for it. So anything was good. And I think that we're hitting diminishing returns. We're coming off of King in Black, and people liked King in Black, but it wasn't a huge sales blockbuster for us. It didn't come back to numbers from a few years ago. And this event just, who cares? We've seen it before. It's another rehashed title from an event from years before, and it's just a bunch of alternate universe stuff. And readers just know that at the end of the day, none of this is going to matter.
Well, yeah, because you're replacing the Avengers essentially with the Justice League or DC characters. The Squadron Supreme is basically is replacing the Avengers, and it's basically a bunch of knockoff characters from the DC universe. Do you think that's the hard sell here? Is that Marvel fans don't want to see DC heroes like as the lead in their Marvel universe, or do you think it's deeper than that?
I think it's deeper than that. I don't think anybody even cares that that's what they're doing. I think that it's just people are tired of these events. They're tired of being asked to buy multiple covers. They're tired of these crossovers. They're tired of not being able to just enjoy a monthly book without it being attached to some event they're not interested in where they're expected to buy extra issues. I think people are just done. I think they're fed up. For me, I don't care about this event, and I love the Squadron Supreme. I ordered the trade where they basically took Mark Gruenwald's ashes and mixed it in with the ink because I was such a big Squadron Supreme fan. I own a copy of that, so I'm like the target audience for that. Normally that'd be the sort of thing I'm on board for, but I just don't care anymore. I don't care about Marvel's events. Most of their writers, I'm kind of over. I feel like most of the art on their books is not up to par. And especially, with these event books that they're going to charge $5.99 for, it's not worth it.
It is an odd story. Just thinking about it, it has nothing really to do with Heroes Reborn, the original event. When some of the Image guys returned to relaunch some of the struggling titles, it's basically DC Comics characters in the Marvel universe, but it's also kind of launching out of this Avengers run by Jason Aaron that has been, quite frankly, atrocious, and it has been for quite some time. We got that Star Brand story quite a while ago. I think that rolled right into that Age of Khonshu Moon Knight thing that was really bad, and then that came over into this Phoenix tournament that just wrapped up that made no sense whatsoever, and there's no cohesion on how this is moving along. And now we're getting into this Heroes Reborn. Like, shouldn't something feel special? Like, shouldn't you be building up to an event like this rather than it's just like no one's enjoying what you're doing, but you're still going to go with the event anyway.
It seems really strange. I've had so many people drop Avengers from their polls. It's another title that's really starting to stagnate. It was happening when they did the Moon Knight storyline. I kind of checked back in because I like Moon Knight, and I was like, oh, maybe this will be interesting. I like that. I enjoy that character, and I enjoy the mythology of that character, and seemed like they were gonna do something major with him. And I got a couple of issues in, and I was like, oh, I hate this, and so I dropped it again. And a lot of people did as well. And it just seems like Avengers is shedding readers every month, and with every event, every storyline, nobody cared about this Phoenix storyline. I know at the end, Maya Lopez becomes shit. I didn't want to spoil it for anybody. I hope.
Well, it came out on Wednesday. Most people probably know.
That's true. Anybody who cares has probably read it. So we'll just say, Maya Lopez becomes the Phoenix, and it was just met with a collective who gives a shit from the fandom. It seems. I don't see any excitement about comics anymore from the people, even the people that are coming in and buying them. It's just kind of like a thing that they do, and they're just dropping more and more titles as the titles get more and more expensive. And with DC moving Batman to being a much more expensive book, I think you're going to see readers dropping some of the lesser titles. There's just going to be less books out there, less options, because people aren't going to be spending that money anymore. There's too many other things to spend your money on that give you greater gratification.
Well, plus you have a lot of competition coming in from the indies. When the pandemic shutdown happened, it seems like a lot of the bigger name creators decided to bet on themselves. We've got Jeff Johns has his own imprint at Image Comics now. Peter J. Tomasi's joining him on that. We've got Scott Snyder doing all kinds of projects with his best jacket press publishing line that we've seen over there at Image as well. Al Ewing, not my favorite writer, but he's got a pretty popular book over at Boom Studios. We got Keanu Reeves over at Boom Studios. Who else we got? We got James Tynan's got a couple of books. So it feels like if you want the best content from the best writers, you don't need to go to Marvel or DC anymore. I think that's a real problem.
It's well documented that I've not been the biggest fan of Boom over the years, based on my time there. But if I had to pick one company that's really come out of this pandemic swinging, it's them. It seems like they've learned a lot of lessons about some of the the mistakes they made in the past, and they're really putting their best foot forward creatively. They've got strong creative there right now. The books that they're putting out, even their licensed stuff like Power Rangers is doing gangbusters. Everybody who's a fan of Power Rangers seems to be really satisfied with that series. They're even getting action figures made of character concepts that they're introducing in there. So it seems like Boom has really stepped up and taken the place that IDW used to hold as the major indie publisher. And IDW is just barely. It seems like they're barely hanging on anymore. They're heavily in debt. I don't know. I think that the sad thing is that without Marvel and DC, you wonder how Boom can navigate. Although it seems like they're aggressively moving into direct to consumer, like they did with Berserker. So I think that even if the direct market were to collapse, I think Boom might be okay.
Well, they're certainly making moves, and it feels like they're preparing for the new environment. So, kind of getting back to this Marvel stuff. Now, you order books for your comic shops, and you mentioned to me that you've removed or you stopped essentially ordering some of those what are perceived to be bigger name Marvel titles.
Yeah.
Did anyone notice?
No one's noticed. So some books that I've dropped, stopped carrying Miss Marvel a long time ago. Then stopped carrying Captain Marvel probably a few months ago, just coming out of the pandemic. I looked at the numbers and I was like, it's not even worth carrying a shelf copy of this. And the two people that had it on their pull dropped it. So I was like, I'm not even going to carry this anymore unless somebody specifically asks for it and puts it on their pull, because every month I'm just putting that in the back issue bin because nobody's picking up the one shelf copy. Dropped Captain America several issues ago. I had dropped Black Panther. The stores, just nobody's coming in and looking for Ta-Nehisi Coates' work. People seem to really dislike it. We've had some discussions about why that is. Like earlier today, we talked about his Red Skull story that is just absolute garbage, and it's a shame. It's a shame because Captain America is more recognizable now than he ever has been, thanks to the MCU. Some of these characters, Miss Marvel's about to get a TV show. We can't sell a book with her. Spider-Verse was huge. Nobody buys Saladin Ahmed's Miles Morales. The numbers are just really pathetic and really anemic. And I think it's just a combination of so many things: bad writing, bad art, bad actors, as far as, the professionals conduct themselves in social media, and the price hikes, and then all of the variant cover schemes and the new #1 relaunches. There's no point to collecting anymore for most people, because people used to enjoy having a run. Look, I've got this whole run of X-Men from issue 1 all the way up to 300 and something, or even wherever they jumped in from. Like, I started with 200, and now I've got the last 100 issues that they've done. There's a collector mentality. People like that, but they keep changing and going back to a new #1 and restarting it again. It makes collectors not care. It gives them a jumping off point. As much as those #1 sales go up for retailers, it's diminishing returns each time. And
it's crazy. So there's a lot of retailers out there that are kind of outspoken for the most part. They're smaller retailers, but when you look at Big Bang Comics, they're not really outspoken. They don't normally go out there and criticize Marvel. They don't normally criticize DC too much. Every once in a while, you hear from them. Should that be worrying to Marvel, that you've got some people that are normally more than willing to stay in line, kind of going out there and pointing out the issues that they're launching an event, and they have less orders than they're offering variant covers?
I mean, I feel like it should be of worry to Marvel, but whether or not it is another question. They don't seem to worry about much, because they certainly don't seem to course correct. They seem to just double down on failure. It's just a really bad time. I don't know what's going on. I don't know if they think that Disney money is just going to keep them afloat forever because they're feeding IP into the MCU. But I think the MCU has proven that they don't really need Marvel creating new characters or new stories. They can do it themselves, and often much better than what's being put out right now by the comic company. So I don't know. I think they should all be very worried. I think they should be worried for their jobs, because Disney is suffering from the pandemic. It's not going to come out of this pandemic the company that it was. It's going to take them a long time to heal from the financial damage that's been done by having the parks closed for over a year. I think that there's a very good chance that these things get parceled out to other publishers, if other publishers even want them. I mean, I've heard the rumors that Warner Brothers might do that with DC. They might offer it up for licensing, and that Kirkman and Steve Geppi are negotiating for that, or looking to maybe get into that. Which at this point, I don't know. Maybe that would be better, but creatively, who can say? But I know that things have got to change, because this is not sustainable, and these events that Marvel is doing are not sustainable. They just keep, like I said, hitting diminishing returns with each new event that they announce, each new #1 that they launch. I don't care about this new #1 by Jerry Duggan, this new X-Men book. I couldn't care less, and neither could my customers. I don't have anybody putting it on their pull yet, and that worries me. That worries me, because X-Men's a major title, and if nobody puts it on their pull, I'm only going to order a couple of shelf copies of the first issue to see if anybody walks in and wants it. But after that, I'll cut that title too. I mean, and eventually just get out.
So when it reboots, do people have to resubmit and say, "Hey, I want you to keep it on my pull" when it goes back to #1?
Yeah, we contact the pull customers and we say, "Hey, it's relaunching. You've got this version on there. From House of X, Powers of X, leading into Dawn of X. Do you want to pick up this new one?" So we do that outreach to try to find out, engage interest, because that's what I base my shelf copy orders on. How much interest is there from the pull customers? And if there's not a lot or not any, then I'm not ordering any for the shelf.
With the orders for Heroes Reborn, it sounds pretty stark, at least from their perspective. And there were some other shops that chimed in, and they had similar stories. And I believe you have a similar story about just as far as customer interest in Heroes Reborn. Now, with Empire coming out of the pandemic, they did not have much interest moving into that, but ended up selling better than anticipated. Do you think that there's going to be just a wave of people coming in on launch day and grabbing all the copies off the shelf? So there was interest, people just didn't put it on their pull?
No, I don't think so, because I mean, it's possible, but I'm going to guess not, because I just have not seen that excitement for anything that Marvel is doing. I'll tell you what people did come in and what I sold out of shelf copies of. And actually, I figured it would do pretty well, so I ordered a decent amount of shelf copies, was Berserker #1.
Yeah.
that sold out. People came in looking for it. They bought it, and and I don't have any copies left.
And guess what? Your expectations weren't subverted. If you were looking for an action comic with Keanu Reeves as the starring character in the comic book, delivering some very vicious action, that's exactly what you got.
Yeah, it's like you looked at the cover and you was like, what was this about? And you flipped through it, and if it appealed to you, you picked it up.
Yeah. Same thing with TMNT The Last Ronin. If you wanted a dark, stark future version of the TMNT, like in a Dark Knight Returns universe, you got it. And I think delivering what the customers expect is really important. And I don't think Marvel does that right now.
No, I don't think so either. And you open a Marvel comic and you flip through it, and even if the art is good, you're probably looking at a bunch of pictures without backgrounds or with 3D models that are traced over of two characters sitting in a cafeteria, or sitting in a cafe, just talking for page after page after page. There's no excitement in those books anymore. So many of them are just dull.
And if you like the art, like Valerio Schiti just launched Sword with Al Ewing in the X-Men universe. Guess who's the artist for Leah Williams' new book? Valerio Schiti. They just move these artists around, launch books with them, and then they move to the next project.
Yeah, they're not there for any length of time, and unfortunately, art is what sells the books. There's certainly not many writers selling books these days.
At Marvel Comics, it's Donny Cates, and who else is it? Donny Cates?
Yeah, Donny Cates is. Al Ewing was doing really well there, but he's definitely fallen off. I've seen sales fall off on Immortal Hulk. Sword did not do well at all for us. I think that people are more appreciative of his indie work, and I think a lot of writers are going that way. I think that a lot of writers have come in and maybe they've done some interesting things with these characters that people love, or maybe they've ruined what they love about them. Like, for example, I don't even recognize Shadowcat anymore. I don't like. She used to be one of my favorite X-Men, and now I can't stand her. I liked Harley Quinn back when she debuted, and now I can't stand her. There's just a lot of characters that I find to be insufferable now because they're not written consistently. And characters can change and grow over the years, but they still have to be recognizable. You should still be able to go in and see something of that original character that you read about 10, 20 years ago. And they just don't anymore. People come in and they just put their own spin on it. So I feel like some writers are better off doing independent work because they own those characters, and people aren't coming in with any preconceived notion of who the character is. So, when Al Ewing moves over to Boom and does We Only Find Them When They're Dead, I think that's probably a better move.
Yeah, it's just it's a crazy environment right now. And for a long time, we've heard people, and they'll take pictures and be like, look at all these shelf copies. This my comic shop basically ordered on hope. And it didn't kind of come through, obviously, out of the pandemic. The orders initially were pretty high, but it feels like a lot of shops are being more judicious with their ordering right now. And if the demand isn't there, they're not going to hope that it is there. And that's going to be a big problem for Marvel. And their numbers will go down because those variant covers, those are for the speculators. There's only so many speculators out there. There are way less speculators than there are readers, and they're really turning off the readers right now.
Yeah, I think the article that in question, I think they said that the most popular cover was the one by Art Germ. Yeah, and it's and
that's a Wonder Woman cover.
Yeah, it's essentially a Wonder Woman cover. It's Power Princess, but she's Wonder Woman, and it looks like a Wonder Woman cover.
Exactly.
That's the one I'm going to get when I check it out. I'm going to buy that cover because it's a beautiful cover, and even if the story's trash, at least I'll be like, well, I got a beautiful piece of artwork by Stanley Lau.
Yeah, I think Marvel's got some problems. So I had a conversation with Doc that's going to be up on Tuesday or Wednesday. It's a little bit more in depth on this. Marvel really hasn't had a hit since like 2019, and it feels like the drought is going to continue at least through Heroes Reborn. And it's crazy, Aaron. In June, when Heroes Reborn is going to go on, we've got Hellfire Gala, Infinite Destinies. We've also got there's another event. Oh, War of Bounty Hunters. And there's a Spider-Man story that's releasing weekly with a giant-sized Spider-Man issue in there. They are not throttling back on the events.
No, I feel like the Star Wars one is fine. War of the Bounty Hunters is fine because your readers of the Star Wars books are not necessarily buying the superhero books. That is kind of a different market. There's some people that just read the Star Wars books at our store, and some people that just pull Marvel books, and then there is some crossover. So maybe you can capture two, but a reader with two events, but yeah, 2, 3, 4 events going on simultaneously. And people just don't have the interest anymore, and they don't have.
Why would anyone think that Heroes Reborn is important? You got the Hellfire Gala. You've got these other events all going on at the same time. You got this big Spider-Man chameleon conspiracy story going on. The Giant sign Spider-Man the same month that you're getting a Planet sign as X-Men. Nothing's ever going to stand out.
No, I noticed this. I mean, years ago, I remember I was reading. There was a Deathlock book out, and I was reading it, and I was like, oh, "This is I'm kind of enjoying this. I'm interested in seeing where it goes." And then I realized at the time that it's because the Avengers movies were really hot, so Marvel was pumping out like 5 different Avengers books, and I was like, "This is why Deathlock or some other title is going to get canceled, because if you have a finite amount of resources and you're a fan of the Avengers, you feel like you have to read all 5 of those titles. Well, that's eating up all of the money that you would have to spend on comics. You're not going to check out a book like Deathlock. You're not going to check out a smaller tier book or give it a shot, because you're tied up into these big events. So even customers that have money, maybe they buy the event books, but then they're not going to read any of the other titles. There's a finite amount of cash that people have to pour into comic books, especially when they're not enjoying it. And I think that we've hit the event horizon of what is sustainable.
Certainly feels that way for Marvel. Aaron, I do appreciate your time coming on here and talking about this, the enthusiasm for Heroes Reborn essentially not being there. A lot of people are reporting that, they just don't have orders right now. And I'll let you have the last word.
I just want to say that I hate this so much. I hate this feeling so much. I want to be excited about what's going on in comics. I really do. And the only things that I'm excited about are the indie books. Maybe we should talk about the indie books more, where I could actually get excited and feel passionate about something, because what the big 2 are putting out is just, it's killing me inside. It's just killing me to be this negative, because I love comics so much. Just let us love comics again. What is wrong with you, Marvel?